Star Citizen just dropped their Halloween event, and the skins are so dark you literally cannot see the Halloween colors. $22 for a Polaris skin that looks like someone drew a single orange line with a dying marker? But there's a sentence buried in today's monthly report that suggests Nyx's system might arrive way sooner than anyone expected. Most players will completely miss this because they're distracted by cosmetics, but when you know how to read CIG's development patterns, this changes everything about Star Citizen's timeline. Following Star Citizen development for years teaches you to spot real news hiding behind marketing speak. Yesterday, you might have been running missions in Pyro, thinking about how cool a proper Halloween skin would look on your ship. Then CIG drops these bronze-looking disappointments they're calling Halloween paints. There's a throwaway line in the monthly report about returning air traffic control voices that should make every veteran player stop scrolling. When you remember the old Levki ATC guy, you know exactly what system that voice belongs to. This affects when you'll get access to that third star system everyone's been waiting for. The timeline might be way more aggressive than anyone realizes. Two major developments dropped today: Day of the Vera, Star Citizen's Halloween event, and the September monthly report containing some potentially massive news hidden in technical jargon. Day of the Vera brings Halloween to the Star Citizen universe. Pumpkin carving contests, spooky ship skins, and the return of Kill Collector. That's basically a combat event where you hunt holographic skeletons because Arena Commander is apparently too broken to run proper events anymore. Monthly reports show what CIG's development teams actually accomplished. Most players focus on flashy new features and completely ignore technical details. Those boring paragraphs about AI improvements and facial animation capture, that's where the real roadmap lives. The stuff that tells you what's actually coming next, not just what they're trying to sell you right now. This month's report has details suggesting major content drops are closer than anyone expected. These Halloween skins perfectly demonstrate how CIG's art pipeline consistently misses the mark. Look at these Saber, Polaris, and Guardian skins, supposed to be Halloween orange and black, but the metallic shader properties make the black look silver, and the orange barely registers as bronze. Running the Polaris in group content, Siege of Orison, Idris missions, those new Pyro operations, you know how much a distinctive paint job matters for fleet coordination and personal satisfaction. $22 for what looks like a single orange pinstripe? That's not Halloween theming, that's lazy asset generation. Compare this to 2 years ago's ghoulish green variants. Those actually worked. They popped against space backgrounds, looked appropriately spooky, felt like Halloween. Last year's were too garish, sure, but at least they committed to the theme. This year feels like they took community feedback about toning things down and overcorrected so hard you can barely tell that these are supposed to be event skins. CIG's caught between players wanting subtle, realistic military aesthetics and players who actually want their ships to stand out during events. Instead of picking a direction, they're trying to thread the needle and satisfying nobody. When you can't even see the Halloween colors in their own promotional screenshots, how will they look in actual gameplay lighting? The answer is probably like regular ships with slightly different metal finish. Maybe you're thinking, who cares about overpriced cosmetics when the game's still missing basic features? You're not wrong. Maybe you think ship skins waste development resources that should fix bugs and add gameplay. But if you've been getting value from this kind of Star Citizen analysis, hit that subscribe button because we're about to dive into news that actually matters for the game's future. You'll want to catch this next part. The real story hides in the monthly report. Facial animation progressed through new performances captured in late August, including characters that will be present in multiple upcoming releases, including a returning air traffic control voice. Playing Star Citizen back when Levki was accessible, you remember that ATC guy. Distinctive stoner voice, completely different from the generic British accents everywhere else in Stanton. Very chill, very memorable. Levki is the main landing zone for Nyx system, literally the only major destination in that entire system. What makes this significant? We haven't seen any Nyx development updates in months. No work-in-progress screenshots, no behind-the-scenes videos, no developer discussions about the system's unique features. Radio silence. But suddenly they're doing facial capture work for a returning ATC voice? You don't do that for content years away from release. Facial capture and voice work happens in final development stages, when you're preparing assets for integration. CIG doesn't waste money on mocap sessions for stuff sitting in concept folders. Looking at how Pyro development played out, we saw constant updates, creature reveals, planet screenshots, server meshing tests, mission previews. Nyx being quiet doesn't mean they're not working on it. It might mean they're being unusually secretive about a system that should be relatively straightforward after building Pyro's complexity. Think about it. After years developing Pyro with new creature types, weather systems, and complex mission structures, Nyx should be a quick implementation. 3 planets, an asteroid belt, and Levki, which already exists as an asset. Reading that line about returning ATC voices, you might think you're reading too much into it. That's the natural reaction. putting down the report and coming back later because it seems too good to be true. But then you start connecting dots. Remember how Pyro's development ramped up? We knew it was coming because we could see the work happening in real time, with Nyx complete silence for months. Either they're not working on it at all or they're keeping it under wraps for a reason. The more you think about it, the more it makes sense from a development perspective. CIG desperately needs a quick win right now. Something to show momentum after Pyro's extended development cycle and all the server meshing delays. You've seen this pattern before with other games. The quiet before a major content drop isn't always because nothing's happening. Sometimes it's because everything's happening behind closed doors. If Nyx actually drops soon, it fundamentally changes Star Citizen's development trajectory and your gameplay planning. Chris Roberts stated he wants 5-star systems for the game's official launch. Right now we have Stanton and Pyro. Maintaining a pace of 1 system per year means a potential 2027 launch window. Nyx is specifically designed around salvage and resource extraction gameplay. The lore describes it as a system picked clean by decades of mining operations, which translates to rare materials, salvage opportunities, and a completely different economic structure from Stanton's trade-focused economy or Pyro's exploration-based rewards. Planning your Star Citizen progression around industrial gameplay, mining, salvage, cargo hauling, Nyx represents a massive opportunity. For newer players, it could be your entry point into profitable gameplay loops without competing against veterans who've locked down the best locations in Stanton and Pyro. For experienced players, it's a chance to establish yourself in a fresh economy before the meta gets figured out and optimized. Remember those first few weeks after Pyro launched? Players who were prepared and understood the system's focus had enormous advantages. CIG designs each system with specific gameplay focuses. Stanton is the tutorial system with safe, predictable mechanics. Pyro focuses on PvP and exploration with high-risk, high-reward content. Nyx is being built around industrial gameplay with a lawless frontier twist. Think salvage rights, claim jumping, and resource competition without Stanton's security infrastructure. The economic implications alone are staggering. A fresh system means virgin mining nodes, unexploited salvage sites, and trade routes nobody's optimized yet. The Star Citizen community is completely split on this speculation. Reddit thinks it's wishful thinking, Spectrum forums are cautiously optimistic, and hardcore players are already theory-crafting Nyx gameplay strategies for a system that might not even be in active development. Longtime backers recognize CIG's pattern of going quiet on major content right before big reveals. We saw it with Pyro, we saw it with the Persistent Universe launch. Even with major ship releases, silence isn't necessarily because work isn't happening. Often it's because they're preparing something for a major announcement. Of course, this is also the same community that's been expecting salvage gameplay next patch for about 4 years running. Take all speculation with appropriate skepticism, but the ATC voice detail is oddly specific for something without a development timeline attached. What you should actually do with this information: start preparing for a potential third system without making major account changes based on speculation. That means having ships capable of long-range operations, understanding current industrial gameplay mechanics, and building knowledge about Nyx's lore and intended gameplay focus. If Nyx drops as a surprise, maybe at CitizenCon, maybe as an end-of-year content release, you want to be positioned to take advantage. Get familiar with the system's background, understand what resources are supposed to be available there, and have a clear plan for approaching a completely fresh economy. Don't melt ships or spend real money based on this speculation, but do start thinking strategically about your ship lineup and gameplay focus. Players ready for Pyro's launch had massive advantages in those first few weeks. Better mission payouts, access to rare resources, and the ability to establish profitable trade routes before they became common knowledge. Most importantly, manage expectations appropriately. This could all be overthinking based on a single line in a development report. But if you're wrong, you've just done useful planning for eventual Nyx release. If you're right, you're positioned to maximize the opportunity. The smart money is always on being prepared for possibilities while not betting everything on speculation. Do you think CIG can actually deliver Nyx by the end of the year? Or is this just reading way too much into one line about ATC voices? Drop your analysis in the comments, whether you're optimistic, skeptical, or somewhere in between. If this kind of deep dive Star Citizen analysis helps your gameplay planning, that like button helps more players find this content. There's obviously more to unpack from this monthly report, so subscribe if you want the full breakdown of what's actually happening in Star Citizen development. Thanks for watching. In Star Citizen, the real game is often reading between the lines of development updates and figuring out what's actually coming next versus what's just marketing fluff. Monthly reports consistently contain the most valuable information for understanding CIG's actual progress and timeline. Even when buried in technical jargon, most players skip over. Fly safe and maybe start brushing up on your Nyx system lore, just in case.